Hey there, I'm your host Lisowi, and this is part 3 of our merchant series. So with that out of the way, let's begin. So next, let's begin with the UI. So let's open up the folder, and in here, create a new folder for the inventory stuff. So let's open that, and let's create a user widget. This will be for our currency. So we'll call it WP_currency. Save and open. And in here, we want to add in a horizontal box, like so. We then want the text, and we want the image for the coin. Drag that in, like so. Now for the text, we'll do 18 for the size. And for the image, let's add in our image first, gold coin. We want to do this one. Now it's huge, so we'll do 20 by 20. And to make this a little bit more pleasing, we'll do fill screen to desired. And we can center our coin like so. And the text block will do variables. We can edit the text in it. txt_currency. And let's just set 99. So there we go. It looks something like this. Let's compile and save and open the event graph. Inside here, we want to create a function called setValue. And all we'll do is we'll get the text currency, set text, the very last one at the bottom. And we want the text to go into this function like so as an input. And we can leave it as, let's just say value. And let's close it. And then on the event construct, get rid of those. We can call this and set the value to be a variable. And we can leave it as value. We want this to be a instance editable and exposed on spawn. File and save. Next, we'll go ahead and design the inventory slot. So once again, user interface, blueprint, WP_inventory slot. Let's save and open. And we'll do a, let's see, size box, first of all. And we can do desired here. Now, if we override the height and the width, we can set this to be 100 by 100. So feel free to set this to whatever you want. Next, we want to add in a button. And this button, we want to change the background color to be translucent. So let's do 0. And in style, we want normal padding to be 0 and pressed padding to be 0. And there we go. Let's close this down. Change the name just to button. And then we want to start with the borders. So one border, this will be filled with 0 padding. This will be kind of our edge for the item. So brush color, we'll do like a light grayish color. I'm happy with that. We'll add in another border. This will be how our slot looks when it's empty. Padding will be 2. Brush color, let's do like a nice darker color like so. Looks good. Let's do even darker. Something like that. It's okay. And next we want to add in an overlay. Our last border, again padding 0. And in here we want the image and the item quantity. So image, fill that, and we want the text. Now we won't see it if image is active, so let's just hide that for the moment. Bring this to the bottom right side, and let's make it smaller, like 8. Give it a padding of 2. Make sure it's variable, txt, item quantity. And just for checking, we'll do 99. There we go. So if our item is visible, the quantity is also going to be visible. So image, we want this to be called img_item icon. And the overlay, we want to be active as well. So is variable, let's just call it overlay. Because depending if the item's empty or not, this will be hidden. compile and save, and let's go to the event graph. Oh, just before we do, let's change the padding of this to B2. And let's go to the event graph. Inside here, we'll start by creating some functions. So first of all, we'll do get item details. And in here, we want to get an item. So variable item s_inventory slot. We want this to be instance editable and exposed on spawn because we have to pass that in somehow. We'll get that. And let's also then with this, since we're here, let's do the index. And this will just be a integer. And also instance editable and exposed on spawn. So with our item here, we want to break it, get the ID, do like we did before, get row, and do item data. And then we can just return that row as item details. And let's close unnecessary pins. We can make this a pure function. That one's out of the way. Now on event construct, we want to get our item and break this. We want the quantity here and check if the quantity is equal to 0. If that's the case, we want the overlay to be hidden and not display anything. Let's hide unconnected pins. Connect that here. So overlay, do set visibility, and in here we can do a select node. So we don't even need the branch. Let's go in here, connect that like so. And if it is true, we set it to be collapsed. And on false, we set it to be non-hit testable. Next, then we want to get our item details. And let's start to fill in our icon and the text. So icon is here, set brush from texture. Break this open. There we go. Item icon goes in here. Get our text to set text, or yeah, it's fine. Last one. And then the text will come from here. Oh, no. Do item quantity. There we go. We can hide those. And we can connect everything. And let's just organize it a little bit. To organize, by the way, just select everything and press Q. Okay, so that's looking good. Let's compile and save that. In this next part, we will be creating the inventory widget. Now for that, we'll need two functions, which we will make in our function library. Now the reason for that is, whenever we need those functions, we can call them instead of creating them all over again. So we'll do show mouse, and we can call them from any blueprint, and we'll do hide mouse. So for show mouse, we want to get the player controller, and we want to do set show mouse cursor. Take this to be true. And last, we then want to do set input mode. Now this depends on you. Now for this system, I do game and UI, so we can still access the inputs. So we'll double click that. And we also want to maybe pass in at some point the focus if you want. Not necessary, but there we go. So let's compile that. We want then our hide mouse. So the same thing, get player controller. We want to do show mouse cursor. Set show mouse cursor. And before we do, we want to check is valid, because when we close the game, the controller isn't valid, so we'll just get an error. We just check for that. And we'll do true, no, not true. We want this to be false. And then we'll do set input game only. And rewrite this again. There we go. Yeah, let's compile and save. And let's return to our inventory. So UI inventory, right click, user interface, WB underscore inventory. And let's open that. Inside here, then we'll go ahead and add in a border to start things off. Now for the brush color, we can do something like this. So it's a little bit different than the item. Then we want a vertical box. And inside here, we want to drop in all of our stuff. Vertical box, we'll do 0 padding. And we need the inventory name, how much currency we have, and then the item slots. So let's start with our text. We want to center align is variable txt underscore inventory name, and padding I'll do 18, and padding will do 10. Next, we want to call the currency widget, which we made. Drop it in your vertical box, center align, padding will do 10 again, and yeah, we can leave it at that. And then we need our wrap box. So wrap box in our vertical box, fill it out, make it variable, and give it a good name. W box is what I call them, and underscore inventory. So with that done, that's looking nice. Compile and save. And just before we go, vertical box, maybe we can do padding 10. Like so. Okay, compile and save again, and open up your event graph. Inside here, then, we want 2 variables. One for the inventory component. Inventory component. This will be our inventory component variable. And then we want one for is offer inventory. So this will help us distinguish between the regular and the trade offers. And we want this to be instance editable, so we can edit it in the UI. And with that said, let's create a function called create inventory slots. Now in here, what we'll do is we'll grab the wrap box, and we want to clear it. So we'll start by clearing the wrap box, and then we'll add to it. So we'll get the inventory component, validate get, because it could be not valid. And we'll do for get inventory slots. In here, we can do a for each loop. So for every single item we have in our inventory, we're going to create a widget for it. So let's do create widget of type inventory slot. Now we can pass in our item and the index. Now on return, we want to grab our W box again, wrap box, and do add child to wrap box. Like so. And then we want to get a branch. And for this next part, we don't have the functions that we need right now, so we'll come back to it. But we are just checking is offer inventory. So now once completed, we want to get our inventory component and do bind on inventory updated. So, and the event we call is ourselves again. So we'll do create event, and we'll do create inventory slots. Let's compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create another function called set inventory name. And in here, we'll grab in our inventory, set text, the last one at the bottom, and we'll just drag this in our input. And we can compile and save. Now, another function we need is the update currency display. So in here, we want to grab our currency widget, to set value. And we want to have an input in here, which will be a value type integer. And then this will convert to whatever we have there. And we can disable any internal digits. We shouldn't have any though. So with that, compile and save again. So back in here on pre-construct, we can just update the currency. So by default, it'll just say 0. then we want to have the event construct. Now in here, we want to create our mouse. So show mouse. And we want to then create inventory slots. Now for the inventory component to be set, we want to create a custom event called refresh inventory. And we will call this outside. Connect that in here. And this will go in here. And we want to then hit our inventory component and do get inventory name. We'll do set inventory name, and there we go. And at the very end, we want an event destruct. So when this gets destroyed, we simply hide the mouse. So that's pretty much it. We'll have to come back here to finish this part off, but for that we need two functions, which we will create in a later episode. So let's compile and save. And the last thing we need is a player inventory. So let's right click, create a new widget, and this will be very quick. W_player inventory. Let's open that, add in a canvas panel. Like so, and we can add in our inventory then. Inventory. And let's anchor it on the left side. So hold Control Shift and click it to snap it into place. Position X will do 200. Do size to content for now, or we can do a size, which is I think better. So size will do 436. I have here in the notes, and 744. So the size includes the margins of the inventory slots, etc. So we have our inventory. Let's go to the event graph here, and on construct, we want to refresh it. So get player inventory. Very handy that we have this function. We'll get our widget, and we'll do refresh inventory. Like so. And we're done. Compile and save. Let's go to our third person character. And here, let's make sure our inventory has a name. So we'll do your inventory. And yeah, compile and save. So that is our inventory UI setup. Now to test it, we'll set up that logic in the next episode. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, leave a like. And as always, happy developing.